Hi class, this is the video for lesson 1 of topic 2. Today we're going to get into basically economic questions, the questions that every society has to answer. And we're going to look at one of the types of economic systems that is possible and one that exists in the world today. So our objectives: identify the 3 basic economic questions, describe the economic goals that determine how societies answer these three questions, and define the characteristics of a traditional economy. So the key terms: economic system. This is basically, think of it in terms of capitalism versus communism versus some other form of economic system that is used by society. We think in terms of politics a lot of times, right? And we have different terms for these economic systems in economics. For example, we have the term command economy, and that's one that's basically controlled by the government, right? And so when we hear that, people that know about communism will think about communism. And then we also have a system that is guided by the invisible hand, which is an economic system that we mostly associate with capitalism. So the economic systems are basically how a society produces its goods and services and distributes those. And the one that we're going to get in today is probably the oldest that exists on the earth today, and it's called the traditional economic system. A safety net, we're not going to get too much into this in this lesson, but we will in future lessons. A safety net is a government programs to protect people from bad economic conditions. A lot of you might be getting unemployment, and you might even get that stimulus unemployment, which is a pretty sweet deal. It's like $600 a week, or it was, and now they're going to lower it to $400 a week, but still, $400 a week times 4, that's still $1,600 a month on top of whatever the state is giving you for unemployment. So that's part of the safety net that we're talking about. This particular safety net is for unemployed people, but also for the effects of the coronavirus. Standard of living is the economic prosperity of people. Like when we say that the United States has a higher standard of living than fill in the blank, whatever country it is, they're saying that the people in general are more prosperous. They have more money and wealth than another country. Innovation is basically doing things in a new way, basically ideas, products, and methods that basically will move that production possibility curve out, because it's just new. It's a new way of doing things. Traditional economy is an economy that relies on customs, traditions, values to answer the 3 basic questions: what to make, how to make it, and who will buy it. So those questions again: what goods and services should be produced by a society? How should those goods and services be produced? And then who will consume those goods and services that are produced? We answer these questions, whether we think about them or not, as a government and society. And that basically really what you can do is start looking at a society and say, okay, how are they answering these questions? And you can figure it out even if they haven't sat down and actually said, let's answer these questions beforehand. The 3 basic questions. When you go to a supermarket, you see rows of shelves stacked with a variety of goods, right? Food, whatever, cereal, soap. Now, what if the only goods available to you were what you and your neighbors could grow or make yourselves? So in other words, you're not getting stuff from these corporations or companies. all these examples represent ways different societies have dealt with the challenges of meeting people's needs and their wants. If we see this picture here, this could be in the United States. It looks like it is probably based on the language and also the way they're writing the dollar amount there. I think it's probably United States, but maybe it's not. Transactions like this shown above determine what goods and services are produced, how they're produced, and who consumes them. Can you describe how the transaction is helping to answer the three basic questions? Well, look at it. I mean, one, if nobody was buying her tacos, right? It looks like she's selling some sort of tacos there. If nobody's buying those, pretty soon this business is going to go away, right? So right there, you know, we answer the first question, what to produce, right? And we also get into the question how to produce it, right? Maybe people do want the chick bacon. Actually, I don't even know what that is. Seems like she's doing tacos, but also tater tots maybe in there, and maybe bacon. So say people like it and they want to buy it, but they don't want to buy it from a stand outside. Say they want it in more of a sit down restaurant format. That would be a change in how we're providing this service, right? And then finally, who is going to consume it? In this case, this guy looks like maybe a white collar worker, businessman, politician, something, right? He's got a full suit on. And so he's one of the customers, right? Who else is able to buy the food from this cart? Is the homeless person that's sleeping nearby outdoors, is that person able to purchase these tacos or whatever they are? Are they cheap enough? So at some point in time, you got to figure out who is able to buy and who is not. Okay, so let's go back to the how. How are we going to do it, right? This illustration shows two different approaches on how to combine the factors of production. We're still talking about the same factors of production as we were last lesson, which were land, labor, capital, right? So if we look at here, the land is the same. It's 1 acre of land. The labor is entirely different, right? On the top chart, it's taking 56 worker hours, right? And they show this by putting 56 people here, but it could be one person spending a couple of weeks working on this, right? And then the bottom is only 2.9 worker hours. Now, why the difference, right? In labor, the difference is because the different capital that's used. In the top example, they're just using hand tools, wheelbarrow, pail for water. In the bottom picture, we see a tractor, right? So that tractor allows this modern farm to produce more wheat than the above one with far less labor, right? So you see, it's just like I talked about this in the last class, where it's almost like an equalizer, where you got your bass, your mids, your treble, and you can think of those as your labor, land, and capital, right? And how much of each do you need to make what you're going to make? And sometimes, you know, if you have a lot of capital, nice equipment, you need less labor, right? So you can move those around. Okay, the economic goals of society. Different societies answer the three questions based on the importance of certain goals. And these goals are always the same. Like they're almost implicit in any society that's going to go about taking care of itself, and it's going to be based on efficiency. What can we produce that is going to be the best use of our time? Actually, you could say the best use of our labor factors of production, land, labor, capital. So efficiency would say that those are dialed in where it's going to be the best for that society. Freedom. Now, a lot of people like the freedom to choose what cereal they're going to eat or what job they're going to do, right? And so this is a value that many societies hold very dear to their to who they are and what they want. Security. You want to have a certain amount of security that you're gonna, when you have freedom and a free market, you have a lot of risk, right? You might assume a loan to start a business, and the business might fail. You're assuming that loan, you're assuming the risk of that loan, right? If it fails and you can't pay it back, your credit's going to be messed up, right? And you're going to have legal problems with the lenders. So security would be like some mechanisms that say, hey, if you don't succeed in your business ventures, don't worry about it. We still have a safety net, and we're going to talk about safety net a little bit later in the class today. But that safety net's going to catch them from falling too hard. Equity is another one. Like if you listen to Bernie Sanders or other progressive politicians, they'll talk about the income gap. The gap between the 1%, the top 1% of wealth, the wealthiest people, and the 99, right? And how that's starting to get wider and wider. And is that fair? Is that is that equitable? That's a question that the societies have to ask. Is at what point in time do you take more taxes from the wealthy to keep that income gap from getting too large? And then growth, right? If you don't have growth in your economy as a society, then there's no way everybody in the society can actually improve their standard of living year to year, right? And so the idea of growth is that if we have growth in the economy, say like if the economy can grow like 5% every year, that 5% can be realized by the people in the society, right? So maybe not everybody realizes the same amount, 5% being the average, but some people are going to see an increase of 10%. Some people might see an increase of 2%. But that when they start to see that increase, they're able to buy more goods and services the next year and the year after that, and so on and so forth. Without growth, you don't have that. Okay, so once again, the economic goals of society, right? In recent years, many retailers have turned to the internet to sell their goods, right? Amazon. How might the use of the internet help achieve economic goal of efficiency? If you think about that. Remember, efficiency is being able to dial in those factors of production so that you're making the most profit that you can, right? If you're a business, and if you're a government, you're messing with those factors of production so that you can actually meet the majority of your needs, right? Whatever those are. So Amazon is an online marketplace. So by having Amazon there and then also having them collect data on what people are buying, they're able to go out and make sure that suppliers are actually making and producing the goods that actually consumers want, right? So basically it's real-time adjustments on what society wants. And so in that way, the internet and online shopping has really, I think, done a lot for this idea of efficiency. So earlier I talked about the rich getting richer, and at a higher rate than everybody else. And here's another way to look at that, right? And this is the idea of equity, right? The top 20% of households has gone up considerably, right, since 76, right? You see them there, they're probably at 35,000 in 76. And now that same family, right, it's a household, now they're above 175,000. However, if we take the second 20%, so this is going to be the 60 percentile to the 80 percentile in terms of wealth, in terms of income, they've only gone up from that's about 20,000 to just over 75,000, maybe 76,000, right? So, and then it gets worse for the next third, and then this, so on and so forth, till you get to the very bottom, right? The bottom 20% of incomes has not really grown that much, right? We're looking at like maybe going from 3,000 to 5,000 to maybe 7,000 to 8,000, right? So it's a big difference. So governments need to decide, how much of this is acceptable, based on this idea of equity. But they don't just look at equity by itself. They look at the other goals, right? Which freedom was one of them. They don't want to restrict people's ability to make wealth, right? In this blue line, because that's also a goal. So you see these goals that they have, whether it's freedom and equity, sometimes they bump up against each other, right? Okay, so now let's talk about a traditional economy. This is just one example of an economy. And here we have Inuit man up in Alaska who basically is hunting for fish, right? And his ancestors did the same thing, right? Maybe slightly different tools, but for the most part, they did the same thing he's doing today, right? So let's see if we can get to that. Oops.
Night, whenever you're watching this, welcome to the Mr. Sin channel. Today we're going to be talking about a traditional economy. Now I'm also going to have a video for a command economy, a market economy, and a mixed economy. There'll also be some for capitalism and communism and socialism. So make sure to check those videos out. Now enough talking, let's figure out what a traditional economy is and how life is like in it. Interested. Now, if you've seen my videos before, you've heard this speech, but take out the guided notes. You can find them in the description below. The guided notes go along with the video, and they do help. They're made for you to make sure that you understand all the important information. And when you need to go back and study, you don't have to rewatch the whole video. You can just use your notes. So take out your notes, and let's figure out now what a traditional economy is. A traditional economy is centered around the idea that as a society, you will just keep doing what you have in the past. Passing down of cultures and traditions is key. All economic questions, including the allocation of scarce resources, is determined by elders and what had been done in the past. Really, the individual doesn't have a lot of freedom in this type of economy. They're going to just do what has been done before them. If you were born into a family who's a farmer, well, you're going to be a farmer. And if this is how they tilled the land, well, that's how you will till the land. There's not a lot of room for innovation or change. You'll continue to do what people before you have done. Now, this economy is often practiced in rural communities and tribal life, and it still exists today. But this is a traditional economy. Every economic system needs to answer the three basic economic questions. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out my video on the three economic questions. You can click the card in the top right and view it. Then come back to this one and you can see exactly what's happening with those. A traditional economy is actually pretty simple how they decide to answer them. The first one of what to produce, well, it's based on tradition. So if you're born again into a family of farmers, well, you're farming. If you're born into fishermen, well, you will fish. There isn't a lot of leeway there. You're going to do what people in your family have always done. And that solves the what to produce. Now, for the how to produce, again, you will go off tradition. So however it had been done in the past, that's what you will do. And for whom, you won't have to worry about that question either because society has already determined. Especially in smaller communities and rural life, normally you're providing then for everyone in the society. Everyone has a specific task. Now, some of the advantages to a traditional economy is there isn't a lot of uncertainty. You know exactly what you're going to do, and that can be refreshing. It's less stressful, you'll have a little bit more free time, and you don't have to worry about as many things. On the other side, though, the disadvantage is we see stagnation occur. We start to see things level off. We don't see an improved standard of living. We don't see innovation. In fact, people who have new ideas or are different from others are discouraged and almost pushed out of society. They are rejected. It is unacceptable to go against the status quo. And so these can be big issues that really cause the society and this economic system to stall out and continue to stay the same instead of progressing and creating more economic growth and a higher standard of living and a better life for everyone. Now, as you can see, a traditional economy, there is some pros, but there's also a lot of disadvantages. Life is completely dictated by tradition. Elders have a lot of power, and really the individual has little to none. Make sure you understand what a traditional economy.
Okay, I think you guys got an idea, a good idea from that, what a traditional economy is. And that pretty much wraps up our presentation today. Let's see what we got here after this slide. All right, so yeah, we just have some quiz questions here. Let's take a look at these real quick. How is a society's economic system defined? By how it answers the three basic questions, by the decision it makes about the who consumes the goods and services. Remember, that's the third question. By the resources it uses to produce the goods and services. That's more like the second question. By the trade-offs it accepts in order to produce goods and services. Because this whole lesson is on how we use the or how we answer the three questions, a clue that's a big clue that the right answer is going to be A, right? How it answers the three basic economic questions: what to produce, how to produce it, who's going to consume it, right? Let's see what else we got. What economic goal reflects the desire of individuals to make their own choices, but owning property, about owning property or becoming entrepreneurs, right? So the economic goal there is going to be freedom, right? We talked about the freedom to be who you are, right? The guy in the video talked about this a little bit as a disadvantage of the traditional economy. But if you're talking about entrepreneurs, right, they want to have that choice on what they're going to produce and how they're going to produce it, right? And what job they're going to do and so on and so forth. So freedom would be the right one. And then we didn't talk about owning property, but a lot of people like to own property, right? And that's a freedom that we enjoy. All right, so that's it for this week, or not this week, but this lesson. And if you have any questions, please let me know. My office hours are 1:35 to 3:30 every day. Thanks.